All right guys, welcome back to the channel. I am working with a bike in front of me called the Aniioki Promax A8. Now the reason people are buying this bike is because it has a 60 amp hour battery. Yes, you heard that right. It's a 48 volt bike, 60 amp hour battery, all in this frame right here. It is also removable as well, and I'll show you in a little bit. But this has been a highly requested e-bike for this channel, and I'm glad to have it. Now, I didn't buy this myself. The company did reach out to me and send this. I just want to let you guys know that up front. But they told me I could say whatever I want on it, so if we find some pros and cons about it, I will definitely mention everything throughout this video, so stay tuned to the end so you guys can see the conclusion on my final thoughts on it, if it's worth it or not. Here is the bike rack in the back. If you guys want to put some storage stuff on there, they have some accessories on their website. You could also put a bench seat back there and have someone ride with you if you want. You got a rear brake light right here. We'll turn the lights off in a bit and show you. And then we got a full fender as well back here. And then you have a 7-speed Shimano back here with a Shimano derailleur. You have a nice huge chain ring up here. It's not the biggest one I've seen, but it's definitely bigger than most. Then obviously you have dual suspension in the back. If you notice that, very easy to remove with using these little Allen heads right here. You take this one off, you take that one off, and you can definitely get the suspension out. And you can also adjust the stiffness of the ride as well if you want to do that. And the cool thing about this bike is it looks like a moped style e-bike, but the seat is actually adjustable. So you can remove that if you want, and you can raise it all the way down if you want, or you can put it way higher in the air if you're a big person, so pedaling will feel really good on this bike. The keys are over here on the right side of the bike. If you want to take the battery out, you just turn it, it pops off, and then you can just pull this out if you want. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Nice, decent travel in the front suspension, so I'm hoping for a nice, comfortable ride. We have the 20 by 4 inches fat tires. They do have huge knobbies on them, so you can definitely take this off-road in the dirt if you want. And then you have a nice headlight up here with a fender to match, so you're not gonna get dirty. You have the nice logo back there. Cable management is decent for the most part. I would have liked to seen this a little bit tighter, or maybe wrapped all the way up here. Maybe just getting one zip tie would fix this and it'll look a lot cleaner. But other than that, it's really not that bad. Your hydraulic brakes are from DY Island. These have been coming on most of the e-bikes lately on the market. Then you have your half twist throttle, some nice locking grips right here. Those things aren't coming off at all. And same for this side. This is where you have the button layout, but I will say the button layout doesn't work too well because to turn the bike on and off, you actually need the keys. It's confusing. I'll show you guys in a little bit how that works. And then you have your sideways iPhone looking screen from 2010. That's kind of what it reminds me of, with just a big fat case on it, but it's a nice big screen. I like it. And then over here you have your 7-speed Shimano with your gear selectors right there, and then your horn button as well. And standing back from the bike, you're gonna see that these bars are definitely higher than most e-bikes, so you're not gonna be hunched over on this one. So it actually might feel more comfortable for you guys that have back problems out there, especially with the seat being adjustable. And I'll show you right now, I kind of adjusted the seat for me already for how I kind of want to ride this bike. And you can see that my feet are kind of bent already, and I can still go down this much more on the seat, but if I really wanted to, and I was a taller person than 5'10", I can definitely move the seat up probably like that high, and then you're gonna be really high off the ground. So it's not too bad. See how I'm sitting on the bike? My back is gonna be straight up and down. I'm not gonna be hunched over like this. So for very long periods of time riding this bike, especially if it gets 200 miles of range or 100 miles just using throttle only, that's fantastic. I think they made the good choice on putting high handlebars on here. So you're definitely gonna be comfortable on the road while riding around. So there you go. So going back to this battery real quick, the way you remove it is you just turn the keys until it pops, and I guess it wasn't locked in there already, but basically just turn the key halfway, you'll hear a click, and this thing will pop out. And this is where all the weight is coming from this bike. This thing feels like it's 20-something pounds. I don't actually know the weight of it, but wow, this thing is 2,880 watt hours, 60,000 milliamps. And I can barely move this thing around to try to show you guys, if you guys see the label on that as well, where my hands are shaking because it's so heavy. And then you have your plug-in right here, which is crazy because it looks like a standard plug-in for like a house appliance or something like that, or a wall outlet. It's kind of crazy. It's not your standard typical plug. And the charger, let me see how fast it is to charge this, because this is definitely a big battery. Okay, so I found the charger. Here are the specs on it if you guys can see that. It is an 8 amp charger, which is very nice from the company. I'm glad they didn't give us a slow charger, so this is a fast charger. But keep in mind, this is still 60 amp hours, so it's gonna take a very long time to still charge. I'll put it down on the screen so you guys have an idea how long it's gonna take from the website, what it says. But what I like about this charger that I saw in the back is that you can hook this up to a charging station. So if you're riding around, you wanna go to a charge point location, all you need is the correct adapter to plug in to the charging station and then plug electrical charger into it. This will work because it plugs into 220 volts. So that's pretty cool on them for doing that just in case you're stuck. But realistically, you're not gonna be stuck with this bike. I mean, where are you gonna be going for 200 miles? You know what I'm saying? So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn off my lights, and we are going to turn on the headlights with using the right hand button on this toggle switch right there. And that's how the headlight looks. This is with it straight. It definitely needs to be angled down a little bit more. Looks very nice, no complaints with it right now. We'll still do a second video on this, taking it back and forth to work and just get an idea of how it looks when it's actually dark outside riding around. Your brake light back here is actually very bright. Very impressed with the brake light, and I will use the brake lever as well. We'll make sure that it works. There you go. So it gets even brighter when pushing the brake lever. So that is super cool. Kudos to them. Very nice headlight and brake light setup on this bike so far. Now, one thing that you guys must know on this bike is the fact that coming over here and hitting this button, it's not gonna turn anything on, right? Now the plus and minus buttons, they go through pedal assist 1 through 5. This probably changes your menu settings or whatever you wanna see, like your odometer, your trip, mileage, stuff like that. And that's your headlight button right there. But to turn the actual bike on, you have to have these keys on. I'm glad to give you 2 key fobs just in case you lose one. But you have to hit the middle power button twice. So if I can get this both in camera, both at once, hit this twice. There we go. Took a second. And now the bike's on. And to turn the bike off, you cannot come up here and hold that or touch it or anything. It's not gonna do nothing. Everything goes through this. So to turn the bike off, you have to hit the unlock button. And once you hit the unlock button, there you go, the bike is off. So just something to keep in mind, you're always gonna have to have the keys on you. So if you have a backpack, your pocket, whatever, just remember, you need those, don't lose them. Okay, now I think we got everything out of the way that I wanted to say about this bike. Now here's where the fun starts. I'm gonna switch to my GoPro. We're gonna go for a ride. We're gonna talk about the bike, on how it feels, it turns, the braking, the power, the speed, the pedal assist, all that kind of stuff. So let's get to it right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, switched over to the GoPro. I got my phone mount up here so we can see if this speed matches with this speed. And so far, it looks like it's different from about 3 miles per hour. Sometimes at one point it's 2 miles per hour. So we're hitting about 28, 29 miles per hour. We're probably gonna start going a little bit faster. Now here's 30, and this display says 33. Now this bike definitely feels different in the front compared to other e-bikes out there because the handlebars are so high. My back feels nice and comfortable, but I feel a little bit of instability when riding this thing just because the handlebars are up so high. The closer the handlebars are to the front wheel, the more control you have over this bike. So I can feel this bike every so often just kind of like shimmying side to side. It's not a deal breaker or anything like that. It's just I feel like I have less control over the bike. And right off the bat, as I'm sitting on this seat for the first time ever going down the road, it is comfortable. It's a very nice, comfortable seat. Now, it's not very long. It's only made for one person, but the fact that it's adjustable up and down is super cool, so you can get your posture right on how you like riding. But you don't get that in a lot of moped style e-bikes. All right, we are in the designated spot to do some speed tests. I'm in gear number 6. I'm actually, as I do this test, I'm gonna drop it down to 1 so we can go through the gears in the next section. But right now I'm just gonna use the throttle only and drop my gears down, and we're gonna see how fast this thing is. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. No push off, no nothing. 20, 22, 24, 25. The display's showing 30 and we're doing like 27. It's not the fastest bike out there. This thing is definitely pulling a lot of weight. Now they do have a 52 volt version as well. My coupon code will work on that if you want a little bit more speed and torque out of the bike. So maybe opt for that. But this is probably gonna give you your most range out of all the bikes because it doesn't have as much power, but it still feels pretty fine. So I'm in gear number 1, and I'm gonna go through all the gears right now. So let's try the pedals out, no throttle. 1, 2, 3. Oh, here we go. That popping noise is because I think it was in gear 2 or 3 and it had to still drop down. So I'm not using the throttle, just so you guys know. Is it me, or does it feel like it picks up speed faster using the pedals? All right, so let's try that again. Let's keep using the pedals because that kid stopped us. So I want to see what our top speed is. It should still be the same, but it feels like using the pedals, this thing actually goes faster than using the throttle. It doesn't feel that bad, the pedal either. I'm not having any complaints. We're jamming pedaling. 33 on here and 30 on here. Let's jump off the curb. Woo, okay. Bike's very heavy to lift up off the curb. Keep that in mind. Holy moly, we got so much weight on this bike. So jumping off curves, definitely pull up really, really hard. You gotta be strong. So we are at the spot where I normally go up this hill, and I never really show you guys how steep this thing is. It's not that steep, but it's very like a short of a run coming up the hill. So we're gonna see how well it does up this. I'm kind of worried because of how heavy this bike is. But here it is out in the sun. The OK and the Promax and the little OK on there and the little logo right here has like a little gold reflection on it. Looks pretty nice when the sun's hitting it. It's not that bad. I just don't like the fact that they put the website on the bike right here. This is non-removable. I don't really want to be advertising a website as I am going back and forth around town. I'd rather have no logos or be able to put my own logo on here. I feel like it would have been cool if this was removable, even though I know they want to advertise their bike. You could have put a big old blasted like YouTube banner on there or your company's name or whatever, just to advertise as you're rolling around, and people are probably going to look it up and then find you, and then you get some extra traffic. But unfortunately, it's not removable. The only thing that looks removable on this is a sticker right here. But look, you can see our travel on that suspension. It's moving pretty good so far, and it's pretty comfortable for the most part. I'm not having any complaints. So other than that, let's get up this hill and see how well it does. We'll do this a couple times. I'll start at the bottom, and then we'll do it with a running start. I don't really think it's gonna get up this. Okay, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, it cut out. I'm like almost to the top. It wouldn't do it though. It wouldn't do it. Even at 1400 watts peak, it would not get up that. And keep in mind, we're in pedal assist 5, but I'll get a running start and we'll see how well it comes up this thing. Woo, there we go. Oh, the bike cut out. I don't know what cut out on the bike, but it stopped working. I didn't make that up. Oh, there's mud. Oh, how well did those fenders work right there? Because I just went through a bunch of nasty mud. Hopefully I'm not wet. I didn't feel like I got wet, so they should be working pretty well. So these tires are made to go on trails like this. We got a little bit of a soft dirt patch in some spots, but for the most part, it's just kind of hard packed. And it's handling it pretty well. The suspension is actually very nice. And we're going damn fast in the dirt. Woo! I didn't fly out of my seat at all. I felt very planted, and the suspension felt very cushy, if that's even a word. That felt very good. This is not a bad off-road vehicle. Woo-hoo-hoo! Now, if you want something better, then yeah, maybe go with a Sur-Ron or a Talaria, but this thing holds its own on the dirt. Woo! Okay, I did come out of my seat that time. Not the most comfortable, but definitely it's up there. It's handling its own. That's awesome. Especially going this fast. Yes. Let's go, baby. Let's go. I'm definitely hearing a lot of chain slap though from the chain. That's what's making that extra noise. But other than that, it's pretty solid. I'm gonna give this thing right under an 8 out of a 10. I'm gonna say a 7.9 out of 10 for how it feels off-road, especially going almost 30 miles an hour in the dirt. Now let's see how this baby turns. Once you get into the turn, it's good. Getting into that turn is a little hard, but if you lean your body back, so if you're more up this way, it's harder to turn, it feels a little stiff, but if you kind of lean back a little bit and go into it, it definitely turns very sharp. Something I noticed. So lean back on this bike, turn it, and go with your weight, and this thing turns fantastic. But if you're sitting upright like this, real close to the handlebars, it feels a little weird with these bars being very high up off the ground compared to how far they are from the tire. All right, guys, so here comes the braking test. I'm gonna get it, yep, there we go. 30 miles an hour, that's what oh man, 31, I'm trying to stay around 30. 30, there we go. Whoa, yeah, baby. Dang, I slid. I locked them up as much as I could. I didn't care if I made these tires bald or not, I slid. But wow, how impressive is that? So if we stop before that little white line right there that's spray painted into the cement, that's very good. Bikes that are behind that line and in between this other line, which is gone by the way, now it's not there, but it was like that little line. Oh, there it is, it's right here. So that line right there, these are on the good spectrum of bikes, and the ones that stop before that line are absolutely insanely fantastic. But this thing was doing 30 miles an hour. Normally this test is done at 28 miles an hour, but it definitely doesn't stop that slow because normally some bad bikes will stop way, way up there. But what I want to do is I want to do this test again, and I want to go at 28 miles an hour. Let's see where we stop at. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, 28 miles an hour. Yes, baby, yes. So look, we stopped before that line now. You can see my other previous mark right there. Fantastic at 28 miles an hour. That's crazy of what 2 mile an hour difference can do. But that's also because these brakes are probably getting hot as well. We are working with 180 millimeter rotors, and these are like 3 millimeters thick, which is better than most e-bikes on the market. And again, these are DIY Island brakes. They're working fantastic. I've always liked DIY Island brakes. They've been coming on most bikes nowadays, and they feel very good in the hands. Especially, you also have adjustments right here too. So if it feels a little soft for you, you can tighten this up right there instead of having to get an Allen wrench all the way down there on most of these e-bikes. So I like that. That's pretty cool. I just looked at the back tire and we didn't actually wear down the tread too much. They're actually holding on pretty good, better than most e-bike tires that I've shredded in the past while just sliding on them for a good couple hundred feet. Not too bad. Now what I like to do in this section right here, let's see how the throttle response is. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. All right, a little delay, 1, 2, 3. Like a half second delay roughly, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'd say about a half second delay on the throttle until it starts putting in power to the bike after you pull it. One more time, we'll do this and we'll move on to the pedal. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, roughly about half a second. Let's see how the pedals are. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the pedals are about the same. Maybe a second, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Ah, that's similar. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it seems like this is about half a second. This is about a half a second as well. Maybe slightly longer, but it doesn't feel like a full second. But so you're getting basically the same response out of both the throttle and the pedal. So that's not too bad. It's not the best out there, but it's definitely better than most. I've had some bikes that have been 2 second, 3 second delay for pedals, and that's horrible. I would never buy a bike that has that big of a delay unless you're not planning on pedaling. But if you're really a pedaling person, then you definitely want the lowest delay possible. But you do want some type of delay on the pedals, because if you didn't have any delay on the pedals and you barely moved them whatsoever, that's a very scary feeling when you're just like this, like it barely moves like this and it just takes off on you. That's not okay. I've had a bike like that as well. Not fun. I think the Rumble Motors e-bike was like that, and I just had to disconnect the sensor just because it was too sensitive. Now as we're rolling back here, we do have a horn that I have not tested yet, so let's see how that is. Move it! Move it, squirrels, get out the way! That's coming directly from the headlight. So it's not that loud, but it's definitely better than a bell. So I'll take that. And this also should have a walking mode as well. So let's try that out really quick. And let me go over here around this corner. So right now, I'm just holding it. Oh, there, oh, you don't have to hold it. Oh, wait, you do, because it stopped. So hold on, let me hold that again. Seems like you have to hold it for a long time. Okay, it's walking. I see the little bike icon down there. As soon as you let off though, it stops. So you have to hold this on the whole entire time to walk the bike, which might be a little bit frustrating because it feels a little weird. That's not too bad. So walking about 4 miles per hour. The front suspension is very bouncy. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah. It is not that stiff. That's why it probably feels really comfortable for me, at being like 165, 170 pounds. It's not very hard of a suspension. So if you're a bigger person, even though this bike does hold up to someone 350 pounds, it might feel a little soft for you when you sit on it. It might kind of sag a little bit, so just keep that in mind. But for me and my riding weight, it's not that bad. So I would suggest if you're up to 200 pounds, this is probably gonna feel perfect for you in the front for suspension wise. All right, here, let's do another top speed run. We got the wind going with us, so 31 miles an hour and 34 on here. We're moving pretty good. I was hoping it was gonna give us 32, but you know what? I'm not gonna be picky. It's still a class 3 e-bike at the end of the day. So 28 miles an hour is perfectly fine. Getting any more than that is just great. Here's something I like to show on these bikes as well, and that's the turning radius of the handlebar. So that's as much as you could turn the wheel. Now, you're never gonna turn it when you're riding, you're never gonna do this, but when you're storing it, locking it up, maybe moving it in your garage, backing it up, whatever you gotta do, this comes in handy. And one thing I'm also noticing that's gonna get damaged over time is the top of the battery. So you see these screws right here? If that's showing over GoPro right there, these screws come in contact with the battery on top. So if you guys can see that, we have little markings right there. And there's nothing you can really do about that. Maybe put some little rubber pieces right there to block those bolts from hitting. It's supposed to have these on here to stop it. Maybe those just aren't, no. Even with those there, the bolts still hit. So don't come after me by saying these need to be adjusted, because that's coming in contact before, but this is still, if you turn hard enough, it's still hitting. All right, so some other stuff I want to show you guys, and I haven't even done this yet, is hitting the I button. So the I button, exactly what I was saying earlier in the video, if I kept that clip in there. You had odometer, then you have your trip, then you have your max speed that you went, 34.4, but realistically that's off 3 miles per hour, so we hit 31.4 roughly. And then your average speed that you're going, so our average was about 22.7 miles. And then you have amp hour, which I'm not exactly sure what that is. If you start rolling, what does that do? Okay, so that was showing me roughly about 23 max, and it started going down little by little. The average I saw was about 20, and then once we hit our top speed, it went down to like 8 or 9. So maybe that is the amps we're pulling from the controller itself. It's just weird, it says AH after it. And then it just goes back to odometer after that. I would have loved to seen a voltage reading. Come on, man, a voltage reading would have been great on this bike, especially with having this huge battery pack in there. I would have loved to see where my voltage is right now. I'm pretty sure for the 8 miles that I've done so far, I bet you anything, I probably went down like 1 volt, maybe 2, if that. That's pushing it, because this battery is so huge. Man, volts would have been so nice to see. Anyways, I think we covered most of it. You know, one thing I didn't cover yet. Let's see how it is if I lost all power on this bike. Let's see if it has a 0 mode, so I don't have to turn it all off, because you have to get your key. You can't turn it off from here, which is unfortunate. So here we go. Oh my God, no. No, no, no. This is not a bike. If you lose power on this thing, something happens, you go past that 200-mile mark. Oh my God, this is probably not gonna happen to anybody out there, but man, if you had to pedal this bike, no, do not attempt to pedal this bike. It is too heavy. All right, so let's go back to the house. Let me give you my final thoughts on this bike, but it's pretty good so far. I'm not complaining about it. Oh, and one last thing I thought on this bike is that the tires are decently loud, but they're not as loud as I thought they were gonna be for how big the knobbies are on here. Not too bad. Grass test. Oh, it's struggling. Okay, there it goes. Took a second. Okay, pretty sure my hair is messed up after all these rides. It always happens with the helmet. But anyways, you guys aren't here for that. So I went back on my phone and I looked, and there's a lot of differences from what the display is telling me and what my phone's telling me. So GPS on my phone said we did 8 miles exactly, 8.0 miles. On here it says we did 9.7 miles, almost 2 miles extra. So maybe that's how they're getting their claims of a higher number for the miles of range you can get on this bike. But regardless, it's a 60 amp hour battery. That's 3 times the size of a normal e-bike out there, because most bikes are now coming with 20 amp hour batteries in 2023. and they literally went 3x above that. So I'm not really knocking the company, it's just something needs to be changed in the settings, like the wheel diameter, size, and all that stuff, so the top speed will reach the same as what my phone said, because on here it says we did 34.4 max top speed, and on my phone it said we did 31.7. So there's a 3 mile per hour difference roughly for that. But it's not too bad. I'm not knocking that whatsoever. I like the bike overall. It's not the most slanted e-bike out there. That's the best way I can explain it, because the handlebars are so high. It reminds me of the Aerial Rider Grizzly. So if you maybe rode one of those bikes and you liked it, then you're definitely gonna like these handlebars on here. You're kind of limited on what type of handlebars you're gonna put on here, just because it's a weird, different setup compared to most bikes. And you're also not gonna be throwing any extra batteries on here as well. And you're definitely not carrying an extra one of these in your backpack or anything like that, unless you buy an extra one and strap it up somewhere back here. Then you're gonna get, I don't know where you're gonna be going. Are you gonna be going from California to Vegas? I don't know where you're gonna be going that far on a bike that already gets 200 miles of range, or 100 if you just use a throttle only. I didn't notice any battery go down whatsoever. We're still at 5 battery bars. They didn't even go down under throttle or voltage sag or nothing like that, so that's good. But the fact that I don't have any voltage reading really sucks on this bike. I was really hoping it had some type of voltage reading, especially the main reason you're buying this bike is because of the battery. So you really want to see where you're at. But for the most part, if you really think about it, you're just going around town. You're never really going to have to worry about your battery, unless you're just someone that doesn't like to charge it over and over and over every single time you go out for a ride. It would have just been nice to have. Cable management's great. The tires felt great. The headlight looks good. We'll test it out in another video, so subscribe if you want to see that. The fenders are good, but I will say, if you look down here, and I'll try to zoom in with the camera, this got blasted with dirt. So even though I do have a front fender, it still flew underneath this fender part and hit all of this, and it got super dirty. But the back stayed nice and clean, so I didn't get no mud on the back of my shirt whatsoever, so that was nice. And if you do, for whatever reason, want to remove this, you can. This is not welded into the bike, so you can unbolt this. The bad part about doing that is your brake light is attached to the back of this. So if you were to do that, you're gonna have to find out a way to route that brake light. Maybe you're gonna have to move it up here and zip tie it somewhere, which you probably could. And the fact that you can move the seat up and down for your riding style is pretty nice. There is no adjustments in the handlebars though. Keep that in mind. You can't move the handlebars forward, you can't move them back. So you're limited on that. You do have a little bit of room to slide up and down, and the seat helps, but definitely you're limited to adjustability on the front. And again, there is no adjustability on the front suspension as well that I didn't mention earlier. So you can't adjust preload, you can't adjust compression, you can't do any of that stuff. So that's unfortunate. The other thing I didn't really like about the bike is the fact that you can't turn the bike on and off from this. You have to pull out the key. So that means you always have to have the keys in your pocket. And sometimes that feels uncomfortable if you have your phone, your wallet, maybe have some batteries for your GoPro, your filming stuff, or you just carry a lot of stuff in your pockets in general. Carrying this is kind of a pain in the ass if you did not want this. So every time I gotta store the bike or turn it back on, I need to use this. So I hit the unlock button for the bike to turn off, which is weird. You'd think it'd be the lock button or something like that, but it's not. But overall, the bike was absolutely comfortable. It had decent power, but it didn't have that much power to go up a hill. If you're in San Francisco, I'd be a little worried on some of those steep hills that you got to go up. It's going to climb up it a little bit, but then once you get towards the top and it starts losing speed, I would definitely think about maybe getting a more torquey bike, or maybe look at getting the 52 volt version of this model, because that was definitely going to be better for hills. This one's not that great, but this one's going to give you the most range, and that's really what you're buying this bike for. You're not going to be racing it, you're not going to be doing anything crazy with it. It just get the most range. Range anxiety is out the window. You don't have to worry about that anymore. And I will say, it's not bad. It really isn't bad for what you're getting under $2,000. That's the biggest thing about this. It's $19.99 right now that you can buy it. That is insane for this. The most of the cost is in this battery right here, because batteries are expensive for these e-bikes. So 60 amp hours on an e-bike for under $2,000, it's crazy, right? I don't know, I think it's nuts. If you guys are seriously looking for the most range you can ever get out of a bike without having to do some mods and add extra batteries, rails, connecting it with a battery blender, this is the bike for you, and it was absolutely pretty comfortable just to ride around and not do anything too crazy on it. So I would highly recommend this one. You guys can check the links down in the description if you guys are thinking about picking it up. It definitely helps me in the channel, so please use those links before purchasing these bikes. And stay tuned, subscribe, because I'm gonna do a separate video when I take this to work, and we're definitely going to see how this thing is. It's definitely gonna be fun, and we'll see how the lights and the brake lights are, and I'm not gonna charge it. We'll just see if we go down a couple battery bars for the 13 or 14 mile trip that we're gonna do. All right, so I'll see you guys. True MVPs.